Hey guys! So today I'm going to be doing my October wrap up, and as you can see, I voted. Yeah, definitely held on with tape because the stickiness has rubbed off since I've had it on all day. It's like after work, but I went and voted before I went to work today. So awesome. Gotta fight that patriarchy, man. Anyway, let's get into all the books that I read in October. In October, I read a total of 18 books, which, if you've been here, you know I normally read over 20 books a month, usually around 24-ish is about my average number. But October was kind of a shitty month, mainly at work, just because October is like the mark of like the actual like holiday season, especially for retail. And so people were starting to get ready for that, and we were getting a lot of our resets for the store. So yeah, your girl was just extremely busy the entire month and stressed about work. And then also, these are the books I read, and they're all huge. I think every book right here is over 500 pages. So yeah, I read a lot of my big books this month. So that's also another factor in it. But anyway, let's just get into all the books that I read this month. The first one being Radio Silence by Alice Oseman, and I loved it so much. Like, I am actually really upset that I didn't read it before, because it's so good, you guys. If you haven't read this yet, you really, really need to, especially if you loved like Fangirl and Eliza and Her Monsters. This is kind of like the love child of those two books, and it's so fucking good, and I highly recommend it for just everybody. It's got LGBTQIA plus in there, it's got mental illness representation, it's got all these things, it's got this really beautiful friendship at like its core, and it's really about just like, you know, the fandom culture and all that stuff, and I just love it so much. 5 out of 5. Can't get enough. I love this book. The next two things I read were part of a series that I've been reading, and it's The Tyrant Falls in Love, Volume 7 and 8. And so the thing that we've been waiting on forever finally fucking happened, you guys, and it was really good. And I think there's like 2 more volumes left in that series, just to probably just give us like a little bit of a wrap up, but I'm real happy. And I gave both of those a 4 out of 5. The next book I read this month was actually on my Kindle, and that was This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab, which is the first book in like her Monsters of Verity duology. I also have Our Dark Duet on my Kindle, because they were both on sale at one point, so I got them then. And I'm definitely planning on reading Our Dark Duet at some point, maybe before the end of the year. We'll see. But I did enjoy This Savage Song. It wasn't like the oh my god, fucking fantastic, best book ever kind of thing that everybody had been saying. It was a good book, and I enjoyed it, but I gave it a 4 out of 5, and I definitely preferred the Darker Shade of Magic series. For sure. But I did really enjoy Katie as a character. I thought she was so well done, and I think I just really enjoy Victoria Schwab's female characters like the most, because they are just so well crafted, and they're just like my type of ladies, and I just love them. So maybe that's what it is. The next book I read was one that I borrowed from my library, and that was Hero at the Fall by Alwyn Hamilton, which is the final book in the Rebel of the Sands trilogy. Oh my god, you guys. I was a wreck after this book. Like, I didn't expect to cry, but I cried like a couple of times, and I was just like, this is not okay, and it's not fair. Because I remember at the end of the second book, something happened. I was really upset about it. And then something else happened in this one that really upset me. Like, I will be forever bitter about it for the rest of my life until the end of my days. I'm gonna be bitter about this. So, yeah, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, and I think literally the reason I did that was because I was so bitter about the ending that I was just like, I'm gonna take off half a star for this. Like, wow. Okay. Petty, am I right? And then the next book I read was Pride by Ibi Zeboboy. I listened to this on audio at work one day, and it was actually really enjoyable. I loved the narration. Narration on this is really great. So if you can get the audiobook, it's on Scribd, and the narration of the audiobook is really great. So I really recommend that. And if you listen to it on double speed, you're going to get through it pretty quickly. But I really enjoyed like the sister relationships that were in that, because our main character has a bunch of sisters and they're all really close and they have this really great relationship. And I really enjoyed like the emphasis on her, like her home and like where she's centered, like her neighborhood. She was very much a lover of that, and it felt very much like The Hate U Give in that regard, but it was definitely its own thing, and I enjoyed it. It was laggy in some parts, and I kind of wish that the romance was there, and it was alright, but I don't know, I almost feel like it might have even been better if that hadn't even been part of it, but at the same time, it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling, like a loose, so it makes sense. I don't know. I did enjoy it, though. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm definitely interested to see what this author will do next. Oh my god, I can't even talk, you guys. The next book I read, wow, not you yet, was The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. So I finally picked this up. I've been meaning to pick this up for a while. I read the Percy Jackson and the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. Like, I finished it like 2 years ago, and I still haven't picked up this one, which is Percy Jackson's and the Heroes of Olympus. And I hadn't picked this one up yet, and I had been meaning to, and I just never did. But I finally picked it up, you guys, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of mad I didn't read it sooner, because I have met one of my all-time favorite characters now, and I would die for him. Without question, and that's Leo Valdez. Like, if you do not love Leo Valdez, you're fucking wrong. End of story. Okay, bye. But no, seriously. And I gave that a 4 out of 5 stars. And then the next thing I read was actually a little novella, and that was Lucis Naturæ by Alison Goodman, which is a novella in the Dark Days Club series, which is basically the meeting of Lady Helen and Lord Carlston from Lord Carlston's point of view, because the Dark Days Club is from Helen's point of view. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was really nice, like, getting an insight into, like, his head, because especially in the first book, he's a very mysterious character, and you're questioning his motives and, like, what he's thinking a lot of the time. So it was really nice to actually be in his head and figure out, like, what he was thinking at certain points in the book. I really enjoyed that. And I gave that one a 4 out of 5. And then the next book I read was actually a reread for me, and that was The Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman, which I reread this because I read these books from the library a couple years back, and I just really enjoy these books, and I just kept remembering how much I love these books. I ended up buying this from work because it was a bargain book, so it was super cheap. And I knew I wanted to reread it at some point, and then I went ahead, I reread it in October, and it was such a good time, you guys. I really enjoyed it. I even tabbed it up. That's something I've been doing. All my books that I'm going to show you guys, I've tabbed all of them up, and I've been really enjoying doing that. So I bought me like a bunch of tabs, so I should be good for a little bit. But yeah, I really enjoy it. But yeah, I really just love these books. Like, I have not found another like Regency book that satisfies me the same way these do. The only one that's come close is the Victorian thing by N.K. Johnson. That's the only one that's come even close to what these do for me, in terms of like the Regency London kind of vibe that I want, with like some paranormal fantasy elements in it. Like, these just do such a good job. And I'm really excited to reread the Dark Days pack as well. And then the next book in the series, I think, is coming out at the end of this month. So I'm probably going to read the Dark Days pack here within the next week or so. And I'm really excited. And I gave this a 5 out of 5. Love it, if you couldn't tell, because I rambled on about it for a minute. The next book I read was one of my TBR jar picks, and that was Shadow of the Templar, The Morning Star by M. Chandler, which is basically a book about this little like FBI group, and they're trying to get this diamond back that was stolen during a heist, and they have to work with the thief who stole it to like get it, and it's a whole thing, but it's really good, and I loved it. And the characters are just really intelligent and clever, and the writing is really great, and I just love the dialogue. I think it's my favorite part. The dialogue is just like so snappy and quick, like very kind of like Gilmore Girls-esque, because it's just like, it just makes me think like of how like quick your brain has to go to like comprehend what's happening with them, and I love it so much. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. The next one that I read was Annie on My Mind by Nancy Garden, and this is one that I listened to the audiobook at work, and I loved it so much. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I can't believe I went all these years not knowing. Well, I think I knew this book existed a few years ago when I first started BookTube, but I can't believe I hadn't read it until now, because it was so good. Like, if you are a girl who likes girls, you need to read this book. I'm telling you, as someone who was in that boat, and I didn't even, like, I read it and I was like, why did no one tell me to read it sooner? Why? You know? Like, I am just amazed at how good that story was, and I loved it so much, and it like breaks your heart and puts you back together again, and it's just so good, and I really love it. So yeah, definitely recommend. The next book I read was another audiobook. It was a month audiobooks, you guys. Was The Lost Sisters by Holly Black, which is a little novella in the Cruel Prince world. I saw people saying that you need to read it before you read The Wicked King that's coming out in January. Like, these were people that had already gotten arcs of The Wicked King, and they were like, hey, it would be probably really good for you to read this first before you jump into that in January, because it'll make more sense. And I'm like, okay, gonna do that. So I went ahead, and they have the audiobook of it on Scribe, so I just listened to it on the morning of the Dewey's 24-hour readathon while I was like drinking my coffee and like getting woken up and all that good junk. The next book that I read was The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth, which I read this for the pick for the Rainbow Reads book club, which I was actually in the live show with Alyssa from Pucks and Paperbacks for this, so I'll leave that link down below if you want to go and watch it. It was a great time just getting to like chat with her about all the stuff that went on in this book, and I really tabbed my copy up and everything, and I just really enjoyed this book. I feel like the first half was a little unnecessarily long. Like, I feel like it could have been cut down a little bit more, because I feel we get too much description, especially of like the land, because like if you can tell, there's like not really a reason to have a description of this, you know, or at least as long a one as it had. I just felt like the first half went by so slow, and then the second half, I got through the second half in like a day. It was so quick. So I think there's definitely a pacing issue in this, but other than that, it's a really great story. I really enjoyed all our characters, or I hated them with a burning passion, like, you know, the ones that you're not supposed to like all that good stuff. So, and then there was a few that I'm like, I like you, but I shouldn't like you, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, but this is a really great book, and I really recommend it because it's just great. But if you are planning to read it, please be warned that there is some graphic self-harm in here, and if you are not well into your recovery, you probably shouldn't try this right now, just because, yeah, like I said, it's really graphic, it's pretty triggering. I have been in my recovery for years, and it was still quite something for me to get through, so I just want to make that very clear to anybody. I don't want you to pick this up and then, you know, it be bad for you, so just so you know, okay? Okay. And I gave that one a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Oracle Queen by Kindar Blake, which is another novella. I swear I had quite a few novellas this month too. Stop. And it was pretty good. The reason I read it is because I had started this one, and literally the first chapter like mentioned it, and so I was like, oh, I should probably go read that. Oracle Queen first. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I do think that it gave us some very important information. So yeah, it was good. And then I read Two Dark Reigns by Kindar Blake, and I really enjoyed this one, you guys. And that's sad because I really liked the first two. I gave the first two, I think, like both 4 out of 5 stars, but this one, I feel like nothing, and I mean fucking nothing, happens until the last 100 pages. Like, it made me really mad because it felt almost like a waste of time, and because I wasn't reading that much this month, or at least it felt like it to me. I know 18 in books is still a lot. It just, for me, it felt like I was being very slow, but again, like I said, I've been reading a lot of big books, but anyway, it just kind of felt like a time waster for the last 100 pages to only be like the part where all the shit goes down, and it just made me really upset because the other two, even though they were also slow paced, I feel like, you know, at least stuff happened. At least stuff like happened in the, you know, in those pages. It just felt like in this, that stuff wasn't really happening, and it was just kind of like just filler, and it made me pretty angry. So I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Knights of the Borrowed Darkness by Dave Rudden, which was a audiobook I listened to while I was at work. Big surprise, but it was for the Ethnic Heritage Challenge of the Witchathon, which is a readathon I did this month. And I actually really enjoyed this book, like more than I was expecting to. It's all about this boy who has grown up in foster care. He's grown up in an orphanage, and one day his aunt's driver comes to pick him up, and basically his aunt wants to meet up with him. So he goes with their driver, and they end up getting attacked by like these things, and it turns out that he's from a family of like these knights, and they like fight evil. And it's like one of those stories, but it was actually really interesting, and it had a crazy plot twist at the end that I was not expecting. And yeah, I've pretty much enjoyed it. My only thing is that I think it was pretty vague in explaining parts of the world. Like, I felt like the world building wasn't where it should have been. But again, it is the first book in a series, so that might be something that is fixed in the next books, because it's very much, you're kind of with the main character in that you don't know what's really happening with him, because he doesn't know what's going on either. And you kind of learn with him, like, gotta check and see if the next books are on Overdrive, which I think is where I got this one from, the audiobook for that one from. And then the next book I read was Spindlefire by Lexa Hillier, which is a book I buddy read with my friend Kristen, who I do the book vlog with. We buddy read a book together for Witchathon, and it was okay. It wasn't that great. I wasn't that big of a fan. It was just kind of eh. Like, it was really eh. And I don't remember a lot about it. I just know it was like a twisted, like, Sleeping Beauty retelling. And there's a sequel, and I'm just like, do I care, though? Like, do I care? So yeah, I gave it like a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm just kind of eh about it. And then the last book I read this month was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. And this is what my copy ended up looking like when I was done. This is a lot. This is ridiculous is what this is. I swear, there's almost like a tab on every other page. There are so many tabs. I went through like 1.5 tab things for just this book. Why? But I really loved it, you guys. It was a great conclusion. Some things in here were really sad and they broke me, and other things were really great and they like gave me life, and that doesn't make any sense, but it's what happened. And I love this series so much, you guys. And yes, I understand it's got problematic shit in it. I still love it. I think it's cool. I think it's okay to like something that's problematic as long as you recognize that it's problematic. I recognize that it's problematic. I still fucking like it anyway. I mean, could this as a conclusion, and I just... And this was another reason why I didn't read as much, because this literally took me like a whole week to read. A whole week. Because I was very much taking my time with this. I was only reading like... For the first few days I had it, only read like 100 pages every night because it was just so much, and I was reading it very slowly at first because I was savoring every little bit, and then as more stuff was happening, I was reading a little bit faster because I was just like, oh my god, I gotta know what happened next. I gotta know. But it was really good, you guys, and I am just a sad little human that this is over. And that I won't be seeing these characters again for a while. Or, well, forever, maybe. I don't know if they're ever going to come back in something else. We'll see. You never know with Sarah J. Maas. It could happen. But anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. But yeah, so I read 18 books this month. And I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, it was the start of the holiday season at my work. And I have been busy AF. So I feel like I feel like I've been doing pretty good, and yeah, I will. Let me know what you guys read in October, and tell me what your favorite book from this month was down in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.